If you think the GM is the only one telling the stories, you are dead wrong. When you play TTRPGs, you are a storyteller too. Most players sit there at the table and just react to whatever the GM says. But the best players, the ones who make truly unforgettable campaigns, take the narrative reins in amazing and impactful ways. I'm about to show you 3 ways that you can shape the story at the table, elevate your roleplay, and make your GM's job way easier. So let's jump to it. I'm Josh, the Creator Bard. Welcome back to the tavern where we tell the best stories together. Alright, we're sitting there at the table, and you step forward and say, I cast Fireball. Well, that's all well and good. It tells me what you did, but it doesn't tell me anything about how it looked or felt. But what if you said, I twist my hands in a spiral, pulling the flames from the torches around us into a roaring inferno and unleash it on our assailants? Which one is more cinematic? Which one has the story? Obviously the second one. So tip 1 is shape the scenes with your roleplay, because the way you describe your actions is just as important as what you do. You're not just a player, you're a narrator, and narrators bring the world to life. Now, you're probably already doing this to some extent, but be mindful of it as often as you can when in character, because when you describe your actions in detail, you create imagery in the mind of your GM and other players. And most importantly, you make those moments feel meaningful. And this works for everything, not just combat. When you search a room, don't just say, I roll investigation. Say, I run my fingers along the ancient stones and rune carvings, feeling for grooves or pressure plates. If you cast a spell, make it feel like magic. Describe the way your character channels their power, how their voice echoes with arcane whispers, or how the air around them shimmers with divine energy. And here's the best part. When you do this, your GM will often give you more. The more vividly you describe your actions, the finer a point you put on the pen you're writing with, giving the GM clues to exactly what you're looking for, and they can go into more detail with extra hidden knowledge or cinematic moments that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So the way you roleplay can completely change how a scene feels. But what if you could change the story itself without stepping on the GM's toes? So many players just kind of wait for the GM to hand them a moment when they never expressed that they wanted that moment to begin with. But what if instead of waiting or asking for it, you created it yourself? Let's explore exactly how to do that with this second step. Set up your own moments. So this tip is twofold. First, make sure your GM knows what kind of arc or story you're planning for your character and give them the ability to create those. In short, create hooks for your GM. They go through a lot of work creating hooks for you to find and play through. So why not return the favor and put things in your backstory or play them out in your actions that give the GM room to play a little bit and do their own unexpected shenanigans. So give your GM hooks by letting them know the general story that you'd like and also leaving gaps or specific things in your backstory and play that hook them in and get them invested in your story. But don't just wait on them to create every moment for you. The second half of this tip, I guess the easiest way to say it, is have goals. Both short-term steps and motivations that goad them on in the meantime, and also long-term goals that can be accomplished over the longer period of the campaign. Because your character's story isn't just what happens to them, it's what they want, it's what they do. So do they have a personal goal, a dream, a past mistake they need to fix? Know these things about your character and then make the opportunities to see them happen. Instead of relying on that inner Dr. Evil and waiting for the GM to just
throw me a frickin' bone here.
Don't wait for the moments, create them for yourself. If your rogue has unfinished business with a crime lord, when did they choose to settle the score? If your warlock has fallen in love against her better judgment, how does she react? How does she interact with her patron in all of this realization? Because I know she won't say she's in love. So TTRPGs aren't about reacting. They're about acting, and your GM will love you for giving them hooks that they can weave into their world. But as fantastic as these moments are, The game isn't just about you and your moments. There are other players at the table and they all have stories to tell too. Unfortunately, when you've learned to roleplay really well, it becomes easy to sort of dominate the game. But remember that the best players don't just play in the story, they co-create. So tip 3 is collaborate. Don't just consume. Here's some ways that you can do that in your games. Propose ideas, don't demand them. Instead of saying, oh, I want to meet a dragon, maybe try saying, do dragons exist in this region? Do I hear any rumors of dragons? This small shift invites the GM to the idea rather than forcing it, and allows the players to have a bit of say in what goes on as well. It gives room for everyone at the table to collaborate on the idea, incorporating it naturally, rather than feeling like now we've got to derail everything that we have going to let you meet a dragon. World build with the GM. If you're from a mysterious order, ask your GM if you can flesh out the beliefs of that order. They will almost always say yes, because free world building, outside ideas, and player buy-in, that's a GM's dream. Maybe the secret mountain monastery has a schism, a lost relic, or even a prophecy tied to your character. The more you can collaborate with your GM about your backstory and the world, the more your character and backstory become a living part of the world. Use player pitches to drive the story. Instead of immediately jumping on, I leave the room, try to think about it a little differently and say something like, I stop at the door and listen behind me. Do I hear anything? This turns a basic action into a story beat, one that gives the GM an opportunity to add to the tension, mystery, or even foreshadowing. Similarly, instead of just going to the tavern and demanding of the barkeep that they tell you where the nearest fight ring is, which are probably illegal, ask if your character would know something about an underground fight club, or if they would know where to find information about such a thing. A well-placed question opens doors for story opportunities that the GM might not have even known were there. And elevate your other players. I bet your rogue could sneak past the guards. My character turns to you and says, you know these people best. What do you think? Tabletop RPGs thrive on group storytelling. Encouraging another player's strengths not only keeps everyone engaged, but it also makes moments feel earned and organic. When you shift the spotlight to another character, you help build shared investment in the story. I hope that by now, with all these tips, you're beginning to see what I'm saying. The GM isn't the only storyteller at the table. You have power over the story too. Your actions can shape the game, and your choices can create some of the best moments. But if you really want to make those choices mean something, you need one more thing. You'll need to learn how to communicate all these things about what you want, what your character wants, and generally the rest of the game with others at the table. So if you're ready to take that dive and tackle the ever worrisome Roleplay Relay, go ahead and click this video where I break down exactly how to communicate player and character desires so you can tell the best stories possible at your table. And stay tuned for even more player tips. Till next time, guys, gotta roll.